What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard Grant Cohn joint podcast production. I'm Rob. He's Grant. What's going on, sir?
Sorry, everyone, that we're 2 minutes late. We had to take the cartridge out of the Nintendo, blow on it once or twice, and put it back in. That always works.
Yeah, Wi-Fi says bets are open. +5. Grant will be late. Hurry, hurry. I can promise you, Grant was there on time. It was a technical issue, but you were in the studio. So I just want to make that known for everybody. Before we get started, please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. And please, we have YouTube channel memberships now. Please sign up to be a member of the Gold Standard YouTube channel. $2.99 a month. You get custom emojis, membership badges, priority comment response. So please, please, please support the show. All right, Grant. Things have gotten interesting here all of a sudden this week, and it's all thanks to Ian Rappaport because he went on the Pat McAfee show and he said that the 49ers have pushed back against him saying that Sam Darnold is going to be the presumptive starting quarterback while Brock is out. What was your reaction when you first heard that?
It's so much drama. Like, to me, Ian Rappaport, when he said that he thought Sam Darnold was going to be the starter, he said it at the annual owners meetings when John and Kyle were there. And then he said it again after the draft when they didn't trade Trey Lance. They said it again. And so to me, Ian Rappaport, just like Matt Mayoko, they're not in the educated guess business like you and I are. We like making educated guesses because we're smart and we're not as connected as them. They just text people. They have everyone's phone number. So when he was saying all this stuff about Darnold, to me, he was hearing it from the 49ers and they weren't against him saying it. They just didn't want to say it themselves. And then they didn't trade Trey Lance. And now they're like, well, one, Trey's going to be here a while, and two, we still want to trade him. So let's stop that and try to reel it back in. And so now Ian Rappaport sort of takes one for the team and makes it seem like he was talking out of his butt. And now he got corrected when really probably the Niners kind of changed their narrative. And he's like, all right, I'll say what you want me to say, but you owe me.
Well, think about it, because he said it at the owners' meetings on March 28th, like you said. And then he said it again at the draft. Yeah. What happened in between those two things? April 19th is the story of the Niners taking calls on Trey Lance. Who broke that story? Oh, that's right. Ian Rappaport. So if the 49ers pushed back in March, why are they then giving the story to Ian Rappaport? And yes, that absolutely came from the 49ers side. So when exactly did they push back? Not until after the draft when Trey Lance wasn't traded. So to me, I agree completely with what you're saying. The Niners are changing their story on Rappaport, and he had to take one for the team.
Yeah, and that's just how it is. He's not like an investigative reporter. I don't think any of these guys are investigative reporters breaking stories that teams don't want broken. They're mouthpieces. They're mouthpieces. They say the stuff the team doesn't want to say publicly, and in return, they get all the scoops. So they can't really be mad when the team makes them look like they don't know, because they're going to get, it's going to be all taken care of down the road. That's why 3 people break news in the NFL, okay? 3. 2.5 if we're being generous.
Here's what I'm going to do. Just keep an eye on who breaks the Nick Bosa contract story. If it's Ian Rappaport, I would not be shocked at all. Let me just say that.
Doesn't he seem like the designated newsbreaker for the 49ers, Ian? I don't know. Jed likes him, or someone likes him.
It's always the national guys. It's always the national guys.
It's the league guys. You know what I mean? It's not ESPN. It's basically people who work with them, for them.
I mean, look, But
here's the rub, right? And the reason this is so easy to see is the Niners tried this with Jimmy Garoppolo. They tried the pump and dump with Jimmy Garoppolo. And the thing is, it failed. Like, they didn't even come close. And they're going to fail with Trey, too. They're not going to trade Trey. They're going to say stuff like, Trey's having the best offense. We've never seen Trey play this well. But they won't say it. They'll leak it. They'll whisper it. And then Tom Pelissero or Mike Silver will be like, I'm hearing that Trey's looking really good. And it's all an attempt to boost his trade value. No one's going to buy it. No one's going to trade for a quarterback mid training camp. And then if he plays and plays well, the Niners will just keep him. Like, there's no trade. He's either going to walk off this team in 2 years or he'll be the starting quarterback. It's one of those two.
That's the weird part about all this. Like,
just like Jimmy.
If he boosts his value enough to have value in a trade, why wouldn't you just keep him then? Because that means he's playing well. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's a bizarre scenario. And the other thing is this, and this is what I keep telling people. If the 49ers want to push back on a story, They can do it publicly. They can do it anytime they want. John Lynch has Twitter. He can tweet it out. They can call a press conference. They can call any reporter they want and push back. They don't need Ian Rappaport to reveal when nobody was asking that they pushed back. You know, like he just threw that out there. It wasn't like, hey, the 49ers say it's not true. What do you know? Like he just volunteered it. So if the 49ers really wanted to push back, they'd do it publicly.
Also, like, this Sam Darnold speculation was going rampant for like 6 weeks. And, you know, so Ian Rappaport starts it. The guys who would normally check would be like, let's say Matt Mayoko. He has Kyle Shanahan's number and John Lynch's number. He could text him and be like, hey, is there any truth to this? And he's the kind of guy who's reported in the past, like, Kyle Shanahan says it's BS. But what Matt Mayoko said was, hey, Sam Darnold has the best arm the Niners have ever had. So it just feels like there's a lot of whispering that was going around that maybe the Niners wanted to get out. Maybe they didn't want it to get out, but it unintentionally tanked whatever trade value Trey Lance had that they might have were exploring during the draft. And now they're like, you know what? Let's just say that we really like him. Yeah, you should have said that the last 2 years.
Whoops.
Our
bad. Once again,
but it's the Jimmy Garoppolo playbook, man. It's like, let's just do the same thing we did when we decided we didn't like Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. Like, that didn't work. You ended up getting a comp pick for him. And I think they're essentially going to get a comp pick for Trey in a couple of years, or he'll be their franchise quarterback, one of the two.
Let me play devil's advocate because I know there are people out there that don't like when we do this. I think Steph Sanchez is one of them specifically that does not like when I try to read the tea leaves, and that's fine. Let's try to say that everything is good. Let's say, hey, the 49ers saw Trey and Sam working out, and maybe Trey looks a hell of a lot better than Sam.
Possible.
And so then now they're like, oh, damn, maybe Trey is better. Is it possible they're pushing back for that reason?
I would hope so. That's the other reason you could say, why is the timing now? Well, they've been in OTAs for a couple of weeks. You've seen them throw side by side. There haven't been team drills. But the thing with Trey is, like, I think you don't really need to see him in team drill. You need to see him warming up and throwing. Like, is he missing his target once every 10 throws? Film him in slow motion. Look at his mechanics. You know what you're looking for. And he's been working with a different coach than he's been working with the last 2 years. Not that the previous coach was bad, but maybe different methods, different results. I don't know. That's the optimistic, uncynical view that they looked at him and they're like, you know what? Hold on. He's made some strides. Possible.
Chris Sims talks about this a lot, about how when you see guys literally side by side, it's one thing to watch Sam throw and then watch Trey throw separately. But when they're on the field together, side by side, throwing at the same time, it's different. It's like when all the bodybuilders go out on stage at the end at the same time for the pose down. You can immediately look. There's the one, number 7. That's the winner.
He's gonna win.
Like, it's easy. And so maybe I would love it if they saw Trey, they saw Sam, and they're like, damn, Trey looks a lot better. He looks a lot better than Sam. And so let's tell Ian to quiet down a little bit.
Possible. Because the thing with Sam, like, they talk about him being a great thrower. He's not particularly accurate either. Look at his career completion percentage. It's below 60. I mean, for someone that Trey Lance needs to compete with, it's a pretty good choice because he has a lot of the same perceived strengths and weaknesses as Trey. It's not like he's competing with Jimmy, who's like the polar opposite of him and might perform or look better in camp. And one of the things I want to say, I think is interesting, I feel like Niner fans have a complete warped perception of the quarterback position in general because of their defense. Like, every quarterback that comes to town and plays the Niners struggles, except for Patrick Mahomes. So Niner fans, you mentioned Dak. Oh, he sucks. Gino, he sucks. Like, Tom Brady technically sucked against the Niners last year. Aaron Rodgers sucks against the Niners all the time. But Niner fans think, oh, Brock Purdy's that guy. He's so great. Okay, what if Brock Purdy was on the Seahawks and had to play the Niners? What if he was on the Cowboys and had to play the Niners? Like, he would, quote unquote, suck too because he's going against the best defense. So that brings me to Trey. Trey played against that defense every day in camp, and it didn't go so well. And a lot of people hold that against him, like, it was really rough in camp. Like, yeah, man, he was going against the best defense in the league. Look what Brady looked like in a real game against that defense. And look what Jimmy looked like against that defense in camp the year before. It wasn't good. And then when he went out and had a typical Jimmy year after that, like, it didn't really mean anything. So I think when Trey and Sam are both getting their butts kicked this offseason in camp by this defense, kind of keep it in perspective.
That's an interesting point that I hadn't thought of, especially because I have heard a lot of negative things about Trey as a practice player, but my pushback has always been, I don't see those during the games. He's never been as bad as people are telling me he's been in the actual game. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's just like, hey, this defense is really freaking good, especially
look what Dak Prescott looked like again. Dak Prescott threw 37 touchdown passes 2 years ago. In his 2 playoff games against the Niners, he's put up a pass rating of like 63. He freaking sucks against the Niners. But he doesn't suck. I mean, the Niners would be, lucky to have Dak Prescott. They could do great things with Dak Prescott,
yes,
but really the only quarterback who looks good against the Niners defense when it's rolling is Mahomes. Maybe Josh Allen. Not even Burrow.
And that's interesting, too, because Kyle always says he values practice more than games. He said it multiple times, particularly during the preseason. And so if Trey is going out in practice and struggling against the defense, is it skewing Kyle's perception of Trey Lance?
Yes. And then think about this. Everyone loves Brock Purdy right now. He didn't have to go through that trial. He's never had that scrutiny. So wait until he's QB1 and has to do an entire offseason when people are charting his throws against the 49ers defense. It happened to Jimmy. It's not, and everyone's going to be like, oh my God, the elbow's messed up. No, it's the Niners defense. It's really good. And Brock didn't have to face that yet. It's going to be rough.
Jose Batista says, Jose Batista, former Toronto Blue Jay in the chat. That'd be pretty
Joey
sweet.
Bats.
I wish Kyle would just come out and say Trey's the starter, Sam is QB2 until Purdy's healthy, so y'all could just shut up already. Me too. I would like to know that as well.
No, I like the competition, man. But keep Trey working, dude. Keep Trey working. I like
John
it.
Mitchell
Bring out the best in him.
Also, the defense knows all the plays. That's a good point,
too. Can you think about it this way? This is what it was going like when Fred Warner's on the field. It's near impossible to throw over. It's really hard to throw over the middle. Okay,
Yep.
So now you're working the edges, Trey Lance, and you didn't have Debo most of the time. So it's like Brandon Ayuk and Ray McLeod against Emmanuel Mosley and Travarius Ward. That's tough, man. It's
Who know
really
the plays
hard, and they know the plays. I'm not trying to make excuses, but what do you expect? 70% completions. What do you expect?
I think that's fair, especially when you look at too, like what has Kyle had to evaluate Trey? He's had. In terms of games versus practice, 90% practice, 10% games. So Trey hasn't even had the opportunity to kind of turn that perception around because he hasn't played enough. So,
right. So that means 90% of his perception is him going against the Niners defense in practice. Yes.
That's
crazy.
Actually really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't
him and scout team going against the Niners defense. Him in training camp going against the Niners defense. Like, yeah, man, that's going to look rough. I remember Tom Brady against that defense. He looked like he was 57 years old. And then Tua looked like he crapped his pants on the field.
And
he wanted no part of that.
Too, right? Brock comes in and plays right away because he has to replace Jimmy, and he plays well. And then he has a week of practice, and I don't know how Kyle felt about Brock and prep. Maybe it was like, I don't know. But then he got in the game. And what did he do in the game again? He played well again in the game. So even if the practice after that was not as good, it's like, well, he looked pretty good in the game, so...
But Brock didn't have to face a defense anywhere near the Niners defense until Dallas. And then he put up 19 points. And then the next week he couldn't get to the second quarter. So Brock still has a lot to prove.
That's a fascinating point. I would love, I don't know how you get to the bottom of that, but I would love to get to the bottom of that because
time will play this out. Like we'll see what happens with Brock because now he's going to have the weight of the world on his shoulders as QB1. Maybe not this year, but next year for sure.
Mark Salaz watching on YouTube. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Grant, you're actually making sense. What do you mean, Grant? How about
one
Grant
day out of the week, baby? One day. So you got to get me at 9 a.m. to make sense. It's like first period. We go. Yeah.
So, God, that would be so nice. But I disagree with what you said about keep Trey Lance working. Give him the job.
Fair enough.
Give him the job. Don't take a single rep away from him. For Sam Darnold? No. If you want to say have Trey and Brock fight it out, I'm there with you, but not for Sam. Sam hasn't earned.
For the sake of Trey's development?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. 100%. The only reason I would say that this is good is because of this stupid, clicky, politicky locker room stuff. And I feel like if Trey's going to like take over the locker room like Brock did, he has to beat out like Sam's their friend. He has to show them all that he's better than Sam because I think a couple of these guys are thinking Sam's better. It's stupid. But it's the culture that Kyle's created, and I think even yesterday, a lot of Niner fans disagree with me on this, but George Kittle sending Trey a cake for his birthday and saying, "Dude's birthday boy turning 19." Like again, like that's a little brother dig. Like, dude, you got to tell him to shut the hell up, like Brock did. In a forceful way, if you want to be the leader of the team. So I don't know.
That's interesting because Kittle was kind of giving it to Brock also, though, like. With the T-shirt after the game, and Brock pushed back on that.
Brock pushed back. Brock pushed back. So you got to push back. You got to push
Maybe he
back.
did. I mean, Trey
Maybe
was. Remember Trey with Rich Eisen talking about, oh, Fred Warner doesn't want the smoke.
I like that.
That
was the best he's
surprised
done
me a
so
little
far.
bit.
That was good.
Yeah.
Keep doing that. Yeah.
And at this point, like, dude, what do you have to lose? Right? I mean,
honestly, man,
you're already on your way out.
I like that. Put a chip on your shoulder, act like this team doesn't like you, and then kick their butts in practice if you can. I mean, it's not an easy, but I mean, you're not going to kick the Niners' butts, defense's butt in practice, but you could do better than Sam Darnold. It's a pretty low bar. You could do better than that.
And the thing we're talking about that might be biasing Kyle Shanahan could also be biasing the players against Trey also, because they're in the practice and they're like, hey, this guy doesn't really look that good. I don't get it. And he hasn't had a chance to be on the field to play against.
Okay, put your friend Sam Darnold on the field against Fred Warner. Let's see how it looks. Okay.
Right.
Shut up. It's fine.
As
Brock Purdy would say.
I do want to see Trey go out there and be like, this is my job. Like, he probably won't. I'm sure he'll say, like, hey, I just want to compete and all that. But I want him to be like, this is my job. You guys brought me in here to lead the team, and I'm going to go lead it. And sorry, Sam, I'll help you in any way I can, but you're behind me. The line starts behind 5.
You know whose attitude was like that? Steve Young's.
Yes.
If Steve Young was in this position, it was like him against Steve Bono fighting it out in 1992. Like, Steve wouldn't be that nice about it. Man. Well, but Steve was a lot older at that point.
Do you remember when the 49ers drafted Giovanni Carmazzi?
Yes.
And he was like supposed to be the guy. And Steve Young said, they picked him. I was a little nervous. And then I saw him throw in the first practice and I was like, I ain't got nothing to worry about. He said that. So like that was his attitude.
Yeah. I guess he knew what he was looking at, right? Damn. Giovanni Carmazzi. 3rd round pick? Hofstra?
Yikes. Hofstra. Yep.
Yikes.
Got wrecked in a first preseason game, and that was the end of the Gio Carmazzi era.
Yeah. Yeah. Good name, though. Giovanni. I like that.
Yeah. That's nice.
I like that. It's nice.
That's so nice. Now, you know what? Now I kind of feel better about the whole quarterback. So you actually made me feel better about something.
I had that realization this morning. Is like, hold on. Like, so, because I was thinking about the Dak Prescott. Someone on Cowboys Twitter was talking about how Dak Prescott doesn't suck. And I was like, no, he does suck. I saw him against the Niners. And I was like, wait a second. Doesn't every quarterback that I see against the Niners suck? Brady, Tua, everyone. They all suck except for Mahomes. Like, wait a second. So that's how we're judging Trey, right? Because we haven't seen Brock against this defense. And it felt like the end of The Usual Suspects where you just drop your coffee. And I'm like, oh. Right. Nice. The best defense makes quarterbacks look bad, of course. Duh. Yeah, that's how I feel.
It's going to be important for Trey to ball out against the Raiders defense when they have that joint practice.
Correct. Absolutely. Because really 2 years ago, he had an opportunity to take the job from Jimmy in a joint practice against the Chargers, and he didn't quite distance himself. He was 21 years old at the time. But yeah, he'll get another opportunity against the Raiders.
He is younger than all but 4 quarterbacks that just got drafted last month. Like, think about it. He's been in the league for 2 years, and he's younger than all but 4 quarterbacks that were just drafted.
So think about it. Let's say he gets buried in the Niners depth chart by Brock Purdy, and they just shelve him, and he leaves in 2024. He'll still be like 24 years old. A team could sign him for nothing and act like they just got a really talented young quarterback on a reclamation project. I mean, he's younger than Sam Darnold is. He would be younger than Sam Darnold right now. So, like, the whole Trey Lance arc is interesting. Like, the Niners are kind of wasting his time. But if I were another team, just because I wouldn't trade for him now doesn't mean I wouldn't be interested in him in 2 years on the free agent market.
If all he costs you is money, you might as well take a flyer on him. There's no downside to that.
That's young.
The weird part of this whole thing. No matter what happens, the 49ers are going to have a quarterback question, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, if Trey comes in and he's playing good and Brock is healthy all of a sudden, what do they do then? Do they bench Trey? Do they go with Brock? What if they decide to stick with Trey and then it starts to get rocky? What kind of a leash does he hit? Like, there are quarterback questions that are going to have to be answered here no matter what.
How about this, though? Let's say, Trey plays a little bit this year. It's pretty good, but then Brock comes back and he plays well and they don't pick up Trey's 5th-year option, but somehow Trey ends up playing in 2024 and doing what Daniel Dimes did, right? Just balling out in a contract year with no 5th-year option. Then what do the Niners do? Do you give him $40 million a year? Like, they're setting themselves up to give a lot of money to a quarterback who has a good contract year. You know what I mean? I mean, they do that a lot. They kind of like the Jordan Poole situation with the Warriors or the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. I'm curious to see if the Niners do that again.
Well, and that's something that Vish brought up on Monday, which is like, okay, let's say that they whatever. They've decided it's Sam, and he gets in there, and Sam plays well. Are you going to re-sign Sam Darnold to a big contract? Because then you don't have the thing you've been saying is the most important thing, which is the young quarterback on a super cheap contract. So again, there's no reason to play Sam Darnold.
Well, they keep changing what they want at quarterback. They said they wanted a super quarterback. Now they want a cheap quarterback. And the thing is, I feel like Kyle will always push back and be like, I can do this with another quarterback. And John's so like eager to stop the search. And if Sam Darnold plays well for 3 games, he'll probably approach him with a lifetime contract. I don't know. Maybe it feels like Kyle and John are on different ends here. Kyle thinks he can win with anyone, and Giles like, Can we please stop the quarterback search so I can retire and be an announcer again? Damn.
David Velez says Giovanni Carmazzi is one of the Brady 6, the 6 quarterbacks picked before Brady. Whoopsie doodle. Yeah, I believe he's a sheep herder now. And I say that like in seriousness. At one point, he was like a shepherd. But let's go back to that thought that you just had. Is the 49ers thought never pay a quarterback? Get a quarterback. No. If we can get a really good one on a super cheap contract, great. But let's just shuffle through them, and we'll always build up the roster around them because I can do it with anybody. Because that's not necessarily the craziest team building strategy I've ever heard. I disagree with it, but I could understand Kyle's thinking, I guess.
That's not what Jed said he wanted to do. He said at the annual meeting, hopefully one of these 3 quarterbacks ends up getting a monster contract from me one day. But from Kyle's perspective, he could always go to Jed and be like, this guy's not worth it. This guy's not worth it. Like, Kyle could prolong the search forever. Jed might want to end it. I think John's desperate to end it, but I don't think Kyle really wants to tie himself down to a quarterback. I mean, he's like a bachelor forever. We've talked about this. I don't think he thinks that he's the secret sauce, and I don't think he wants to get tied down to some egomaniac who makes more than him. He has to make concessions too. Like, that's his worst nightmare. He just wants a quarterback who will say yes sir, no sir. And I think that's why he liked Kirk Cousins, because even though Kirk Cousins make $40 million a year, he'll still say yes sir, no sir to the coach.
Yes, he will. But that was going to be my pushback. If he wants the cheap quarterback, then why was Kirk Cousins the plan? I
don't think he wants the cheap quarterback. He just wants the compliant quarterback.
But what they're saying now is we want the cheap quarterback.
Well, because they're justifying that they have a quarterback room and not a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. Right. They have 2 guys coming off surgeries who have a combined 12 career starts, and Sam Darnold, who they're trying to convince people is good. And the rest of the league is like, let's see it.
Right. The rest of the league, is the rest of the league shaking in their boots at the prospect of Brock Purdy coming back healthy?
Cowboys fans being like, oh man, we don't want to see the Niners and Sam Darnold. We don't want to see that. Seahawks. Right. I think everyone on the Niners schedule is hoping Sam Darnold plays. Like, that's best case scenario. Everyone playing the Niners.
And the Niners would be hoping that they were playing against Sam Darnold before he signed. That's the thing that's frustrating me about this whole thing.
He loses games.
Yeah, which is what Jimmy Garoppolo used to do for them. That's why it never made sense to me. It never made sense.
On the Niners, all you need is a game manager. You can win a lot of games. Sam will lose them games. That's why I don't really think he's going to play right away. Like, he doesn't even know the system. He's not that good. They're talking like he's some guy you can't hold down. He'll hold himself down. Just put him on the field. He'll turn the ball over. Like, I just don't see it. At least not early. It's going to take him a while.
That's the weird thing. Like, people are like, oh, you're trashing Sam Darnold. No, like, we have seen this. This is fact. Like, he is a known commodity.
Did in college. The turnovers were there in college.
Yes. And Jason Aponte said it yesterday. Coaches and system didn't make him throw all those interceptions. Coaches and system didn't make him fumble the ball 90 times in 56 career games. Like, you could say he didn't have a good system or a good coach, but like, those are on him.
Also, like, I guess you could look at Brian Daboll, the way he sort of turned Daniel Dimes' career around. It was really impressive. But Kyle hasn't shown the ability to do that yet. Like, the coaches in the league who can have that kind of an effect on a quarterback right now there's like Daboll, Reed, maybe whoever was working on Hurts, Steichen, or whoever you want to give credit to. Yeah. I mean, it's like on one hand, and Kyle sees himself that way. I guess as an offensive genius, he should be in that class, but he's yet to prove that he can do that. So, I mean, if Daboll handpicked Darnold and said I could do it again with him, I'd be open-minded because he has a track record. But Kyle, I feel like this is going to be another failed experiment from the scheme master.
But also, like, Daniel Jones threw for 15 touchdowns last year. Like, we're acting like he had a great season.
Is that right? 15?
Yeah. He didn't. He just didn't suck. And I feel like that's the trap that the 49ers fans get into when it comes to quarterback. There's a difference between not sucking being better than you were and actually being good. And the
Holy crap, he threw 15 touchdown passes last year.
Yeah, what do you think? I made it
Whoa!
up?
No, yeah, he just did. So Dayball turned him into Alex Smith. He threw 5 picks. Okay, right. Fair enough. You didn't lose the game anymore. And he ran around a little bit. So he's essentially Alex Smith now. Okay.
Even if you factor in his rushing touchdowns, that's still, he ran for 7. So you're talking 22 total touchdowns in 17 games. Yippee.
And then they gave him an awful contract, which is going to happen to Sam Darnold. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. The Niners are going to tie them down, and it sells down to Daniel Jones 2.0 because he's going to throw like 15 touchdown passes and 6. Oh boy.
Regardless of who starts,
the
standard should not be just get a quarterback that you can win with. That's not what you should be hoping for as a fan. You should be hoping for a great quarterback. Forget the other part of it. The question should be, do you have a great one or not? If the answer is no, keep looking, regardless of whether it's Trey or Brock or whoever. That's where I come down on the whole thing.
And I'll give the Niners credit here. What you don't want to do in the search for a great quarterback is tie yourself down to a mediocre to good one like Jimmy or Daniel Jones. You know what I'm saying? Or Derek Carr. Don't do that because that's like a 5-year detour where you kid yourself and get in the playoffs and come up short. Don't freaking do that. Like, keep bringing in guys on 1-year deals or rookies and see what they got and keep it pushing. And that's one thing with Darnold is like, it was interesting to bring him in as a reclamation project. Like, there are reasons to believe there's something there, especially because he hasn't been on a team like this before. But you had so much success drafting Brock last year. I'd rather just bring in another rookie, even though he doesn't have experience in the NFL, and say, well, he's cheaper than Sam Darnold. He's on a longer contract than Sam Darnold. He doesn't have 6 or 7 years of like ghosts that you have to you don't have to exercise the demons like you do with Sam Darnold. I would be more interested in that. But we'll see what happens. They're going to say, well, this guy was the 3rd pick in the draft. He has more pedigree. Like, he was misdrafted, but okay.
So was the guy that you are benching,
exactly.
Trey Lance. Like,
right.
That's the weird thing. Mr. Bell says Sam will throw to Ayuk even when he shouldn't. That's probably accurate. The other thing going on.
No. Sam is going to throw to Kittle over and over and over. Kittle and McCaffrey, because they are buying him tickets to the Warriors games.
You think he's paying for this? You think any of them are paying for tickets? I got to go with no. Right?
No. But still, I mean, it's like, hey, man, you want to be sitting next to us? You better throw me the ball. If you're going to let Kittle decide who the quarterback is, it's going to be determined by who throws him the ball. Obviously.
I didn't think Kittle got enough flack, by the way, for literally stealing Ray McCloud's touchdown.
That was weak.
Kittle literally said, I was specifically coached to cross the field, even if
to clear space.
I can get open deep to clear space. Yeah. And he just said, no, F that.
No, F that. Like, he wrote it. He freelanced.
And that's my question is like, do you think that's the only time he's ever done it?
No, of course not. And it's like you have Trent Williams tipping plays, basically lining up in whatever stance he wants, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like Deebo Samuel, like coming in a little bit overweight, George Kittle running whatever routes he wants. It seems to me if you're like a captain on this team or you happen to be in Cabo for a week at the same time as the coach, you can sort of do whatever the hell you want. Meanwhile, Brandon Ayuk, who's like got 6% body fat, is just at every single practice tearing it up. Man, if he looks at Kyle sideways, it's like not getting the ball for 2 quarters, man. I don't get that. And if I were Brandon, I would freaking hate that stuff. I would hate that stuff.
Yep.
Ooh, I would hate that.
Is terrible.
Yeah, man.
A good point by you. Terradome says Brock Purdy ranked 12th in the CBS Power Rankings, which is 4th in the NFC. Respect Jalen Hurts, but would you rather have Brock or Dak or Cousins? I'd rather have Dak easily. By 1,000 miles, I'd rather have Dak Prescott than Brock Purdy. It's not even close to me. It's not. I mean,
I like Brock's contract. I'll say that. Yeah. I hate Dak's contract. I hate Kirk's contract. But if it was just like pay him all the same and put him on the like, this not even. It's like not even a question. If you put Brock on the Vikings, Kirk Cousins would start. If you put Brock on the Cowboys, Dak would start. Right. If you put Brock on Seattle, Geno would start. That's just the facts. If you put Geno on the Niners, Geno would start. That's the truth.
You're probably right. Sean says Niners are overcorrecting from Jimmy Garoppolo by straddling the fence with quarterbacks. Don't want to burn their boat. Could Trey's agent have reached out to Ian Rappaport and posed the question as opposed to the 49ers?
Trey's agent is Sam's agent. Trey's agent is Sam's agent. How messed up is that?
But when is Trey's side going to weigh in on this? Because isn't Trey represented by Todd France, or who's he represented by?
He's represented by Creative Arts CAA, just like Sam.
But they don't get shoved around. Like that's not
No, they
a,
don't.
they're not a rinky dink agency. That's CAA. Like there's heavy hitters
True.
there.
But they're not necessarily going to go to war with the Niners if they don't necessarily believe in Lance, especially if Darnold is going to be the consolation prize and they get paid off of him. If one of the two guys is going to get a mega deal, CAA wins one way or another.
Yeah, so maybe they stay out of it.
Lance might want to get a different agent. Who is on his side? We are.
Yeah, that's it. Really, the content creators. Damn it,
we are.
Mark, watching on YouTube, says nailed it again. Kyle ultimately wants compliancy, no matter the cost. Yeah. He's using low quarterback costs as an excuse since there are so few high-paid quarterbacks who will comply.
Correct. That's why I never bought Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. Like that would require Kyle to make compromises.
Yeah,
and meet people in the middle, which I don't think he wants to do. And maybe not even meet you. I mean, like with Aaron, you got to meet him like 100% of the freaking way. Honestly, just turn the team over. Kyle's not going to do that.
No, he's never going to take his hand off the steering wheel. Never. No. And like, I kind of get it if you're him, but like you need to learn that there has to be give and take there. It doesn't have to be Kyle's in total control or the quarterback's calling all the shots. Like you could compromise, but I don't know that he's gotten to that point yet. Cause I always think he thinks he's right.
Andy Reid strikes that balance with Patrick Mahomes. And then but they would be like, well, Kyle doesn't have his Mahomes. Right. Cause he passed on him. Cause he didn't want him.
Right. Literally because
you can't use that excuse. Didn't want him. Yeah.
Didn't even look at him. Not even didn't want him. Didn't even look to see if he did want him. That's the weird part. That's even worse. If you misevaluate somebody, okay, that happens. But not checking is the greater sin.
The fact that people don't hold that against him is really a testament to his reputation in the league. Because any other coach with any other name, that would be it. There's no coming back from that. But Kyle, people don't even, that's a footnote in his resume. It's wild.
It is ridiculous.
It's wild.
The other story of the day, of course, is the NFL schedule. Comes out tomorrow night. It's a primetime special. It's a whole big thing. The question I wanted to ask you is, do you know the schedule right now? You don't have to tell us what it is. You don't know the schedule. You haven't seen a link or anything.
I really hate like that type of investigative journalism, like trying to break a story that's going to come out in 30 minutes anyway, so I can say I was first. Like, let me not waste my day. Sorry, I'm not that kind of guy. I would never do that shit.
That's literally how the national insiders are. They're a 5-minute heads up. That's all they really are.
And it's like, oh, see, I'm connected. Like, I guess.
Right.
I guess. So what?
Because like the schedule leaks, parts of it have already come out. And so a lot of
Week
people
13.
do know the schedule ahead of time. Yeah, like for instance, one of the stories that leaked about the Niners is they might be facing the Eagles in week 13 in December.
They are in
Philly.
They are. Yeah, week 13.
So
very interesting week. Well, I mean, it got
that?
leaked. I didn't know, but I think what happened is like I think the Niners probably know right now, and they probably pass it around. And like, so if you're a beat writer who really knows someone in there, they might let you see it, but then there's probably conditions about all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't want to play that game. I don't want to play that game. Like, you think I'm going to censor myself so I could get the schedule 30 minutes before it? Hell no. Like, I'll just be like everyone else. Nah.
If you wanted to, could you?
I don't think they like me enough in the Niners to give me it. If Matty wanted to, yes. If Matt Barrows wanted to, yes, I believe so. Yeah. And maybe yes. Maybe I just think people don't like me. Maybe I'm paranoid. I don't know.
No, they don't like you.
It's just
by the way,
you're right.
If you were Barrows or Mayoko, that's the correct trade. Like, don't sacrifice anything to get the schedule 5 minutes early. I wouldn't do that either if I were them.
Because honestly, like the little nuggets that they give the local guys aren't worth it. Like all the big stories go to Ian, as we've talked about.
Right.
So there's no reason to not have an opinion locally. You should be very opinionated because the national guys aren't for a reason. For a reason. Yeah.
Well, let me just get to this. And look, I know you know him personally, so it's different for you.
Matt Mayoko?
The Mayoko,
oh yeah,
Sam Darnold, greatest thrower ever thing.
Yeah.
Did you text him and be like, did you really say this?
Nah.
You haven't contacted him since then?
Nah, he's entitled to. I say some not stupid, wild things at times too. I think, what was his logic? Like, he was the third pick in the draft. He got drafted for his arm, and Niners haven't had a guy with that kind of pedigree, I guess. Is that where he's coming from?
I don't know. Because his clarification
Because he was thinking like Lance was sort of drafted for his arm and his legs, and the Darnold was just more for his arm, and the Niners is like, well, what about Alex Smith was the first pick? I mean, Steve Young. I mean, I just disagree.
Colin Kaepernick had a crazy arm. Like, didn't
he
do
did.
everything?
I mean, he was drafted as a pitcher. Though I guess, I mean, Matty's entitled to say whatever he wants, and I love Matty, literally love him. But what concerns me about this is that I feel like someone in the organization said it and feels it. If that's how the organization privately feels about Sam Darnold, heaven help this group. They're never going to find a quarterback. They're never going to find one.
Isn't it also possible, though, and I think that we can be guilty of this sometimes, of assuming that everyone in the 49ers organization feels exactly the same about everything, right? That they're a monolith, that they either like Sam Darnold or they don't. They either like Trey Lance or they don't.
There's agendas.
Yeah, it's possible that Shanahan says, you know what? I'm not quite sold on Brock. I want to look at Sam. I want to look at Trey. And it's possible John Lynch says, hey, Brock's the guy. I've seen it. I believe. Like, there may not be consensus.
Also, remember, like, there's OTAs going on right now, but the media's not there. We'll be there in about 2 weeks. So it'd be one thing if we watched, a few practices and Matt said, look, man, I've been covering this team since 1995. I just got to say, from what I've seen on with my eyes on the practice field, Stu's got the best arm I've seen. That'd be one thing. Because he said something like that a couple years ago about Trey Lance at training camp.
Greatest rookie quarterback he's ever seen.
And I felt the same way. I said he was the best Niners quarterback I've seen on a practice field yet. That's how I felt, and I still feel that way. He just has to play against a really good defense. What are we talking about?
seeing quarterbacks in practice. If Matt had seen,
Darnold he hasn't seen Darnold yet. So to me, this is like the team has seen Darnold. He might have heard something and said, "Hey, well, if they're saying it, I can say it too." Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But it just feels like the timing is kind of like he hasn't even seen Darnold in person yet. None of us have seen Darnold in person yet. So how do you say that?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Okay, Matt, if that's what you believe, that's fine. But are you just basing that on game film or what? Because you're right. Yeah, we haven't seen him yet.
Yeah.
Mr. Bell says Mahomes had a 734-yard game in the Niners pass because they had Jimmy. What kills me is that fans still think the front office knows what they're doing.
They're really flailing. And here's what I love. They have no plan at quarterback. No plan. But if something ever were to work out, they'd be like, boom, that's exactly what we thought was going to happen. Like with Brock Purdy, they were like, hey, this is the guy. And it's just like, he's a total life raft that came out of nowhere. And if Trey Lance comes out of nowhere and passes Brock, they'll be like, we always believed in this young man, Trey. People thought we didn't like him. I don't know where that came from because we always believed in him. Like, right, okay, sure.
Look what we've always said nice things about him, even though everything we've done contradicts them. And the other thing that they'll do is if Brock can't come back and play, or if he's just not the same and Trey doesn't work out, or they move on from Trey, they'll sign Kirk Cousins next year and say, well, this was our plan all along. That's what we wanted to do in 2017.
Here's something to think about. Once Trey Lance is off the team and is final, it will go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history, if not the worst. Unless he comes back and plays. If he just sits on the bench and walks in 2 years, it will go down as the worst trade or one of them in NFL history, and that will follow John Lynch and Kyle forever. But it hasn't gone down yet. There's still the possibility that Trey plays and plays well. So if you think about it, there's a bit of a ticking clock here. You got 2 years to win a Super Bowl. If you win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, no one gives a crap about the Trey Lance trade. You win a Super Bowl, doesn't matter. If you don't win a Super Bowl and Trey Lance walks for nothing, get a comp pick, and you got to rebuild, everyone's going to talk about, man, you missed your window and you could have had it if you didn't trade for Trey. If you'd use those picks, I mean, it will be so many what ifs for the rest of your career, and that trade will ultimately define your tenure with the 49ers. So it's a very interesting 2 years. Win the Super Bowl and be defined by that, or don't and be defined by the worst trade ever.
I don't think so, because they've won so many games and they've had playoff success. If they weren't winning, they would get crushed. Because how can you say it's the worst trade of all time when you can argue like it hasn't really hurt us that much? Really?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. That's my prediction. We'll see. I could be wrong. But I have a feeling that once he's off the team, you're going to see a lot of think pieces in the Ringer. Does the Ringer still exist?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Think pieces, 5,000 words on the worst trade ever. Why did it happen? How did it happen? Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, this is what I think is going to happen. By the way, Niner Grandpa says, stop running from my live debate, Grant. I don't know what he's talking about, but
bring it, bro. Bring it, bro. Why you got to disrespect me, bro?
I've always said that people, when they feel safe, report things. That's when we learn the truth. If Trey comes out this year and he balls out, there's going to be a story that comes out. You don't realize how close Trey Lance was to getting traded. Or it'll be
Seth Wickersham.
Right. Or it'll be the opposite. It'll be the Niners would have given away Trey Lance for anything this year, and they didn't get a single offer. And thank God, because look how he's balling out now. But we're going to learn more if Trey Lance plays really well. There'll be one of those stories out there.
Look, it seems highly likely to me that he starts week 1, unless he freaking stinks it up this offseason. It seems highly likely he starts week 1. And if you look at his starts, they've mostly been early in the season where a lot of players have been injured. If he has a little luck and McCaffrey's healthy, and Kittle got injured in practice before week 1 last year and missed the first couple of weeks. If Kittle doesn't do that, if McCaffrey's there, if Debo's in shape, he just might win a few games. And if he gets rolling, I mean, look what happened to Brock. It's a really good team. Trey just might not give the job away. And really, like, let's say Trey doesn't start undefeated, but starts 4-2. You really going to bench him at 4-2 for a guy who's had no offseason and is coming off a surgery? You really going to do that? I don't think so.
I don't think they will either. By the way, Adam Backus, shout out to you. Giving you a little love there, Grant. Love the
Thanks,
show.
Adam.
Keep up the good work. Adam, I'm just saying the show's on 2 YouTube channels. Just throwing it out there.
Adam, good choice. Thank you very much. I do want to say thank you very much. Usually don't get generosity like this in early May, but Adam is excited about OTAs, as am I. Thank you.
The other thing is this, too. Trey Lance has always had starts at the beginning of I shouldn't say always. Last year, of course, he started at the beginning of the year. Everybody for the Niners starts slow in the beginning of the year. It's not just the quarterbacks. It's everybody. I mean, for multiple, if you go back really through Kyle's entire tenure, even in 2019, like Jimmy came out week 1 and was terrible against Tampa Bay, but Jameis threw 2 pick sixes. So they won the game.
Absolutely right. That's the truth.
It's not just Trey.
And if you look, he's played week 1, week 2, week 4, week 5, and week 17. And that's when he balled out. Week 17.
When did he look the best? Week 17.
Brock didn't have to do any of that stuff. He just got to play week 13 after the offense had been rolling for about a month and a half, which is nice. And I feel like probably Jimmy and Trey were both watching from the booth being like, lucky. I could have been in there playing with McCaffrey right now looking good. I bet.
He's had to have that thought, right? Like when Brock is balding out, somewhere in his mind, he had to think, that's supposed to be me.
Hell yeah, I could do that. I mean, look, he gets so much glory for checking down to Christian McCaffrey. Every time he checks down to Christian McCaffrey, it's a great play. Like, I could do that too. No, but I don't want to totally minimize Brock Purdy. I had this thought yesterday. One of the things I think is Brock's best trait, and it should be something he has for a long time, is how he plays in the red zone. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. Like, he is a playmaker in the red zone. He gets a lot of credit for those touchdown passes because I feel like red zone passing is some of the hardest things you could do.
Yes.
You have to extend the play. You have to get out of the pocket. You have to throw it into tight windows. You have to anticipate openings. That's not easy to teach. And he has a really good feel for that. So I want to give him credit for that.
100% agree about the red zone. You have to. Number one, everything is 10 times faster than it is even in a regular NFL game. You have to anticipate the openings. And then even if you anticipate it, you got to throw it. Like, you got to actually make the play. And Brock has generally protected the ball in those spots. Sometimes, makes me a little nervous with the scrambling around because sometimes I think he should just kill the play, like let the play end and, live to play again. But he hasn't really put the ball in harm's way too much. I like to see him run plays a little more in the red zone.
He had that one rushing touchdown where he broke through the middle. Yep. He's a little bit of a playmaker in the red zone, and that's honestly kind of rare. There's a lot of great quarterbacks who kind of stink it up in the red zone and take the field goal. And the thing about Jimmy was he would be very good in the middle of the field, but once you got him inside the 20, he wasn't going to do much. And that's why I didn't like the McCaffrey trade. I mean, when they first got McCaffrey, they played against the Chiefs. They marched right down the field and kicked a field goal. And I'm like, boom, there is nothing McCaffrey can do to make Jimmy better. And then you got Brock, who actually is better than Jimmy.
John says, hot take, they don't win a Super Bowl in San Francisco. Kyle will never be a head coach again. He's been a head coach too long. The league has seen enough. OC only. He needs to win here. I mean, he's been like, the offense was really good last year, though. After they got McCaffrey, they were putting up 33 points a game with Mr. Irrelevant. Like, the idea that Kyle would get a head coaching job in a second if he were fired
the
today.
league is still hiring his assistants. Like, his assistants are getting hired every year. But, his reputation could change any point. You're cutting edge one year, you're not the next year. So we'll have to see. We'll see. But it doesn't feel like he's leaving this team anytime soon. I mean, they're pretty tied to him. They seem terrified to lose him.
I would be terrified to lose him. Honestly, like, I don't want anybody else except for maybe Andy Reid. Kyle's the only other guy I would want coaching this team. That's it. To be honest,
my thing with Kyle is like, if you're gonna fumble the quarterback position, at a certain point, I'm gonna kind of tune out all of your strengths, and there's a lot of them. But I don't want to hear about your scheme and your defense and your weapons and da-da-da-da. If you can't get the quarterback position at all, it's like, ugh. Maybe you are an OC, man. Maybe there needs to be people making decisions over your head.
If you can't handle the quarterback position, like that is a
What
problem. That supersedes the
Exactly.
other good things that you do. That's totally fair.
Exactly.
By the way, you mentioned kicking the field goals. Did you hear the other thing that Matt Mayoko said on KMBR?
No.
About the kicker?
Tell me.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Listen to this. I actually have the audio. This is Matt Mayoko on KMBR talking about the drafting of Jake Moody.
I think actually you'll see maybe a more aggressive offense because of it, because Robbie Gould was, damn near automatic.
Yep.
And so when the 49ers got within the 35-yard line, they would take the points. They would be like, well, there's 3 points right there.
Yeah, totally.
Can we take it?
Yep.
And so I think, this will be something where you'll see them going for it more on fourth down, just because of that reason. Like, you know what? It's a 47, 46, 43-yard field goal. Maybe it's not quite as automatic as it was with Robbie Gould. So they might be a little bit more aggressive offensively because of that.
Hold on. I love you, Matty. So let me follow this logic. So the Niners intentionally got a worse kicker so they could be more aggressive on fourth down. And that's why Jake Moody was a good pick, because he's worse than Robbie Gould. And his lack of accuracy is going to compel the Niners to be more. That's the silver lining. Matty, I love you, man. I hope that's not the case. I really hope that's not the case.
That was the same interview. Like, I don't know what happened, but
we needed a less accurate kicker, because an accurate kicker really brings out the conservative nature in us. So we got a worse kicker, and that'll make us better.
They used a 3rd-round pick or 4th-round pick, really late 3rd-round pick, to draft a kicker to then not use him on 4th down. And don't get me wrong, I've been screaming about Kyle kicking too much on 4th down anyway, but that was just really
They had too much confidence in their kicker. They needed less confidence in their kicker. That's the key to the Super Bowl. They trusted their kicker too much. What you need is less trust in your kicker. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be making fun of Matty again. This is probably how the Niners feel. And I think it's kind of silly. Like, let's step back for a second. A less accurate kicker is the key here. Sure. Okay.
You know what? As I said all this week, if it gets him to go for it on 4th down, great. It's worth the pick to me. I don't care, because he needs to.
I agree with that. With what Matty said, like, be more. One of the things I like the most about the Eagles is how persistently they go for it on 4th down, because that allows them to treat 3rd down like 2nd down, which is so big. You're always at a disadvantage on 3rd down if you're just going to pass. But if you're a run pass team on 3rd down because you're committed to going for it on 4th down, the defenses, they can't do those specialized fronts where you have a bunch of guys over here and it's all this blitz that they're showing. Like, no, you better not do that, because we'll just run a counter or a trap and we'll get 7 yards and just sneak it on 4th and 1. I mean, I love that. So, yeah, if Jake Moody is the catalyst for that on the 49ers, then God bless him and Matt Mayoko.
And it seems really weird that Kyle Shanahan wouldn't see it that way. Like, wouldn't Kyle want another advantage offensively? Like, wouldn't you want more
Helps your defense too.
Yeah.
Helps your defense too. Fewer possessions for the other team.
Like I was saying the other day, the block punt against the Packers in the playoffs, right? Great, amazing play. The reason the Packers were backed up so far is because the Niners had gone for it on 4th down the previous possession. And even though they didn't get it, they were in great field position because of it, and it leads to a block punt and a touchdown. So I hope that Kyle sees the light there.
You could argue that a big reason the Eagles didn't beat the Chiefs is that they should have gone for it more on 4th down. I think there was a long return, and they kind of, it's like that was who they were all year. And then in the pressure moments in the set, he kind of blinked and was like, okay, let's play regular football. Like, no, be you.
Yep.
Be you.
Absolutely puckered in the big moment.
He did. Totally. He absolutely did. But to his credit, I think he showed the league this is how you need to play. And maybe other teams this year will be trying to do that. You should be. So I feel like the Niners have been a little bit like a year behind the Eagles on certain trends. They're very similar in what the things they want to do. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, it does help to have a 220-pound quarterback who can power. And maybe Trey Lance could end up becoming a quarterback sneak god, because the thing about Jalen Hurts.
Can't do it. Can't bring in Jalen Hurts in certain packages. The Niners veterans do not like that.
I know, right? The thing about Jalen Hurts, he has a ton of rushing touchdowns. I want to say 10 of them are just quarterback sneaks.
Yeah.
It's such a big part of their offense. So hopefully the Niners can do that too.
Gammon Brown says, Shanahan's passing game is simple. Also, I will live debate Niner Grandpa at Grant. Please allow me to be your Lancelot. Get Peters and get Peters and Ngankwe.
Who's Peters?
Marcus Peters.
Ooh, I like Marcus Peters. He's from Oakland.
I don't like Marcus Peters as a player. I don't know anything about him as a person.
Well, he doesn't tackle per se.
And he gambles a lot.
Oh, yeah.
He takes a lot of risk. And I feel like the Niners have a couple of safeties already on their team that are going to gamble a lot in Hufanga and Jair Brown.
Also, I don't think they really want DBs who are just like matadors as tacklers. Sorry, Marcus.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually want guys that can step up and tackle. Raphael says, is Lance another Kaepernick? If not, what sets them apart? Like, a lot sets them apart. A lot. First of all, as people, they're totally different. They're just different people. Like, Trey seems very much like toe the company line, don't make any waves kind of guy.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick stopped the friggin' planet with a protest during the national anthem. Like, that right away should tell you they're different people.
Right. Also, Kaepernick was a 4 or 5 year starter in college.
Yeah.
He was like the prototypical pistol quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was very specific. He had a lot of experience doing something. He was very successful running the zone read. Like that's who, like Trey Lance wasn't experienced. Like he didn't run the zone read. He's kind of more of a projection and he wants to be a quarterback and a scrambler. And I think it was tough trying to turn Colin into an NFL quarterback because he was such a successful college quarterback. And when the Niners had success with him, they kind of, met him in the middle, put him in the pistol and ran the zone read. Like
right.
The Niners trying to do that with Trey Lance. And I don't think that's helping him. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like run the zone read. Like he's kind of sucks at it. In terms of just reading the guy.
Or maybe
because he didn't do it.
He needs more practice at
right.
it. Like
let him play quarterback. I think their whole mentalities are different as players.
When Colin
Kaepernick, look at how hard Trey Lance works every offseason with different coaches on his mechanics. Like Kaepernick was running sprints and working on his, abs. No offense. Like he was working on his body, not his mechanics. Seriously.
Yeah, when Colin Kaepernick graduated Nevada, he was the only quarterback and the first quarterback in NCAA history to have 10,000 passing yards and 4,000 rushing yards.
Dude.
He had a ton of experience in college.
Oh yeah. Yes.
That's not Trey Lance at all. Trey's the complete opposite.
He was like 20. He was like a 24-year-old rookie. I want to say, Colin Kaepernick. I think he turned 24 during his rookie year. So they were different, and like he needed to change his mechanics, but they were so ingrained, and he was a little defensive about that.
Yeah, he was.
Because like if you've had success for so long doing it one way, you're gonna always fall back on that. With Trey, like he only had success 1 year, so he can't really say like this is how I've always done it. Nah, man, you got to do it the right way, and I think he gets that. Which is this is why I have more. That's why I still have confidence in him. I'm still encouraged and hopeful.
Yeah.
Because he does everything the right way. He hasn't shown me a big red flag where I'm like, you know what, I'm out. He just got hurt. Put in a tough situation.
The only red flag that I have heard, and I want to preface this by saying that this is pure rumor, nothing else. But I have heard that Trey parties off the field. But
I heard that last year.
My response to that would be, what 22, now 23-year-old who's rich doesn't party off the field?
Right.
So
Debo does.
That's my question is like, could that be an issue with the Niners? Do they not want their quarterback doing that? If he's in fact doing that, which I don't know that he is.
I got some pictures DM'd to me last offseason of him like at certain parties in Mexico. But again, Debo was having the same experience. The only difference is Debo's an all-pro. And if you're trying to be anointed the quarterback here, and the locker room's already skeptical, and they look at you as not being 100% professional and serious about taking this job, it could work against you unless you ball out like Patrick Mahomes, and he hasn't yet. So you could nitpick whatever with him, but I just feel like now you're not seeing that. Like I'm not getting any DMs of him partying, and he was in Hawaii. Seemed like he had a pretty low-key time out there. It's a pretty family-friendly place to be, Hawaii. And then he came back, and now you see him working with this coach and that player. And I just feel like maybe he was young. He's from North Dakota or South Dakota. He came out Minnesota. He was in California. Probably pretty exciting, and probably had his DMs flooded with women. It's probably pretty tough. And I think he realizes, look, like they're gonna throw me off this team. They're gonna push me out of this league. Like I need to. It's serious now, and I think he probably has a different mindset.
I see the people in the chat. And David Hasselhoff is one of them. Now we're saying Trey parties from what you heard. Talk about nitpicking. Again, I literally just said everybody goes and parties and has a good time. I'm not criticizing him for that. The question I asked
I'm not criticizing for it.
Would the 49ers have a problem with that? I don't think he's done anything wrong. In fact, if you go back and look, Trey himself said when he was hurt, I got back in the locker room with the team. I asked Kyle to give me something to do to help Brock Purdy. And Kyle did. He gave him, I forget, it was like third downs or something. He was having him scout. And Brock himself said the number one person that helped him was Trey Lance. It was the first guy he named. So I'm not criticizing Trey Lance. I'm not saying Trey is not being professional and doing all that stuff. I think that he is. But that's just something I heard. So I just wanted to ask if maybe the 49ers felt that way.
Well, think about it. Like, this is their big project, and they've failed so far. They thought that they could take Trey Lance and that they could sort of fix his mechanics and make him a top-level starting quarterback. So when they do the autopsy of why this has failed, you know how the Niners are. They don't look inward. What did we do wrong? That's not how they think. So you start at the result. It didn't work, or it hasn't worked yet. And you work backward, and they always blame the player. So what did he do wrong? Well, he partied, or he made it rain, or he did this, he did that. I mean, you can find whatever you want, right? If
you're looking for something.
If the result is it didn't work, and your assumption is it's Trey Lance's fault, then you can just pick anything he did that day. He ate a turkey sandwich. We told him to eat a ham sandwich. Are you kidding me? We specifically told him to eat ham, and he ate turkey. What? So you can do whatever you want. Until he plays well, he'll get nitpicked to death.
That's fair. Stovey 4x4ing says, problem is San Francisco doesn't develop quarterbacks. They want a finished product.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yep. And that's the thing. Like, if you build the team before you insert the quarterback, that it makes sense. Like, oh, let's not get a quarterback and then put him in a position to fail and where he just gets sacked a bunch and sucks. Yeah, but if you do it the opposite way and you get a young quarterback and he's not great right away, you could just throw Peyton Manning away, Troy Aikman away. Like, all these really great quarterbacks who needed a little bit of time. Josh Allen, that's not the guy for you. And then now you're falling back on low ceiling backups. You're looking for your Rich Gannon. Is that really what you want?
Right. You have to be able to put up with something. It's either not having a good team around the quarterback and going through the struggles, or going through the struggles with an inexperienced quarterback and a really good team. It's one or the other. Niners don't seem willing to do that. All right. Yeah. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please like and subscribe to the Gold Standard YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to Grant Cohn's YouTube channel. Although, let's be honest, he doesn't really need the help. We can all see the business is booming for Grant. Just kidding. Rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Hey, between the two of us, one of us is unemployed. Just saying. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.